guys. Welcome to our first podcast. This is going to be a conversation with 4 YLAC interns at our office. This will be a conversation on issues of body image, self image presentation, and mental health. We are going to look at how these themes play out on social media and how they're related to each other. We will also be exploring aspects of peer pressure, pressure to be popular or well liked in a virtual reality, bullying, as well as social support. While we will be talking about social media generally, we are going to focus on Instagram in particular. So, to start with, I am going to ask a few questions about uploading images on Instagram. Today we have with us interns from YLAC.
Hi, I'm Gitanjali.
Hi, I'm Ananya.
Hi, I'm Rishita.
Hi, I'm Angira.
So to start with, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions about uploading images on Instagram. Do you edit any pictures that you put up of yourself? How is that entire process? Do you put on effects or anything else?
So in Instagram, I always edit my pictures because generally many people always look at you from the images there, and then when they look at you in real life, they're like, oh, it's the same person. And generally I'm really conscious about how I look on camera, so I always tend to edit my pictures or blur them out to get a better effect and to make myself look better on camera.
So there's also another question that I want to ask. Is it okay if it looks like you put on effects or you edited an image, or is there pressure for it to be as though it's natural when it is really not?
So, if your image is too edited that one can see there are too many filters on it, obviously everyone will know that you were trying to showcase and trying to edit it a lot. That's why it's not actually welcomed. But if it's something like a black and white picture or it's artistically edited or something like that, then it's okay.
Most people I know generally try to show that their pictures aren't edited at all, and they try to subtly edit it so that it looks natural, but really it isn't.
So that's where like the hashtag I woke up like this comes from. So you try to edit it in a way that is, natural.
So these, all of these filters, hashtags like hashtag no filter, hashtag I woke up like this, or hashtag natural, they're all used like this. But I think more than half of the pictures that are posted using these hashtags are fully edited and not at all natural.
So when you look at other Instagram feeds, when you're scrolling through it, for example, so does it affect your perception of yourself and of the other person? And if it does, then would you like to tell me how? And do you feel any pressure to match up to that kind of an image that's edited and curated for Instagram?
Well, there's always the pressure to look good wherever you go, because in the world we live in, it's so technology based that everyone on camera is so different. Like, I know so many people in my school, when I look at them, I wonder, are you sure it's the same person? Because it's a total fake personality in front of the camera. And even though you might not want to be that person, there's always that pressure, like everyone's doing it, so you're following the crowd. And even though it's not your personality, you still have to do it to match up to everyone's expectations.
Okay, that was really interesting. So now we're going to move on to questions of body image. The first question that I would like to put forward is, so on Instagram, a lot of people follow celebrities, models, or even, friends. You follow people on Instagram. So when you look at their pictures, and they post pictures of their bodies in addition to their faces and also other things, is there pressure to be that ideal type of body? Is there an ideal type? How do you deal with the pressure? How have you seen your friends or acquaintances deal with that?
So most models nowadays are really fit and thin, you could say. So a lot of my friends, they try to Photoshop their image to make it look like they're thin. So that's probably how it affects their perception.
And also people in our school who generally have a good figure, if they're thin, if they have curves and everything, and even not so thin people, if they're curvy and everything. And these days, because the curvy body type is also accepted a lot, they'll confidently post pictures of their body. But the people who are not very comfortable with their bodies, even though everyone else is posting their body images, they will try to refrain from it. And even if they post something, they'll try to not showcase their body a lot. So they try not to show their physical appearance there.
Okay, so that's how you've seen, that's how it's generally dealt with. But does that put pressure on you, or in general, your friends or people in your age group to achieve that body, and or follow advice that might lead to eating disorders? Because when I was going through websites and the internet, I've seen fitness advice, like fitness in quotes, floating around, because that puts the weekly consumption of calories to only 680 or something for an entire week, which is not even enough for a day. And while this is a bit extreme, do you have any similar, have you come across similar advice or diet tips for you to get that figure? Is there pressure for that?
Well, I think the pressure comes from your peers, because your peers also, and generally the people you're surrounded with, because there's a constant pressure to look a certain way, to have a certain body. But like my friend has faced it, okay, so she's probably not got the ideal body which everyone would want, but people in this age and time, they don't look at that. They look at a person the way they are, the way they look, and the way they present themselves, and only then plan to be friends with them. So probably the pressure of being acknowledged by everyone is there. And even though she's a very strong-headed person, she can't really be herself because she's not really accepted, and she can't really mingle with everyone because she doesn't look like a perfect person.
So as you said, there are these advices about fitness and everything which is going on around internet, which may be a bit extreme, but things like I think in today's time, things like gymming and everything has become very popular, especially amongst boys, because they want to buff up and they want to be muscular. And even though it might be a good thing and sometimes bad, because I think this expectation of social media of wanting to see a particular person's specific body type, this is encouraging them to go and spend a lot of time on gym and spend a lot of time on their fitness, so to call. And basically they're maybe spending a lot on their equipments, they're spending a lot on gym memberships, they're spending a lot on all of these stuffs just to look a certain way, and which has been encouraged by social media platforms.
Have you guys personally considered such advice at any point of time? Considered it, not like you don't have to do it, but has there ever been that kind of pressure to do something?
I honestly haven't really considered actually doing it, but for health perspectives, I have thought of going on diets to keep my routine healthy and everything, basically in that terms.
A lot of my friends tried to convince me to put makeup, which I can't do because of my allergies. And of course, I couldn't really do that because of my condition, but then I may have gotten swayed by their persuasiveness and all.
Not me, but many of my friends have followed such advices, and I guess they're not dealing with it now because it has a bad impact. At the end, they are at a loss.
So when you guys or people in your age group, you face such pressures, but have you ever talked about any of this with parents or trusted adults, people you could have conversations with? Have you had them, or have you not, and why do you think it happens?
Okay, I'm pretty sure people must have had conversations with their parents about this. I mean, personally, I haven't, but people must have. And I think the best advice to give to yourself is you should be confident in whatever way you are and what you are, because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. You should love yourself.
Okay, so even though parents are the most comfortable and approachable adults are all around us in our homes, but I think these kind of things, we as teenagers wouldn't want to have with our parents. We might talk to our friends about it. We might discuss it maybe in classes where teachers encourage this kind of conversations. But unfortunately, parents are not the people who we usually go and talk to.
I feel like most teenagers won't talk to their parents about such a thing because like parents aren't on Instagram and they don't know how the social media of now works. So they won't be comfortable asking their parents for their advice and like talking to their parents about the problems they face.
So teenagers and adults effectively live in two virtual realities because parents are usually on Facebook, right? They're not on Instagram. And that's why teenagers don't feel like they can have fruitful conversations with their parents about this because there is a generation gap, a gap in dialogue, and I think that's very interesting. And now I would like to ask a few questions on the whole mental health aspect to it because we've talked about presenting yourself on body image, looking at other people's bodies, your own bodies, and now I would like to look at we've already talked about this, but I would like to ask that I would like if we could talk some more about it. The pressures to present yourself or your body in a particular way and live up to that image in your real life. How would you or your friends deal with it? Because for example, as one of you've mentioned that you edit your bodies on social media, right, on Instagram, but you can't edit your body in real life. So if somebody looks at you, they would obviously get to know that okay, maybe you've edited your body. So how do adolescents react to that? How would a person from your group react to something like this? Or are Instagram and social media sites in real life, do you acknowledge them that they're different and different rules apply? Is nobody going to really ask questions about it or things like that?
Well, nobody's going to ask you questions about what you do on social media. But I think, again, as I mentioned earlier, the pressure of being like accepted in the circle is like the most, it's not important, but that's what the general mindset of the teenagers in this age is. And for the fact that they edit their photos or even like edit their bodies so much, it's because however, if they have like a lot of followers, they get a lot of comments and likes, so a lot of people get to know them, so that's how they become social climbers. And for the fact of like when someone sees them in real life, I don't think they care as much.
And also I've noticed that in my school specifically or in my environment, people who are generally not popular, they tend to do these kind of things because they might not look a certain way in real life, but they are totally different on Instagram and social media platforms. And because of that, obviously a lot of people talk about them. And in a way, sadly, they like it because at the end of the day, they are being talked about and they are being conversed about. So they kind of, even for a period of like short moment, they become the topic of conversations between people and they like it. And as she said, eventually it doesn't matter if you're getting likes and comments on social media platforms, so it's okay for them to look different.
Like in my friend group, if someone is like caught photoshopping their pictures or whatever, no one would say anything to their face, but everyone would obviously say stuff about them behind their back. They would make fun of them and like make jokes about them. So that's basically how people respond to such stuff.
Like the people who do not have a perfect body, they have pressure, and like if they're not being recognized, as she said, they've not been recognized in the real life, they want people to get to know through social media. So they photoshop, and yes, there are different rules because people don't say things to them, to the people who photoshop.
That was interesting, and I think we can pick up on a thread that, from the answers. That is, we can look at social hierarchy, popularity, especially in high schools. There's a lot of, things like social climbing and the popular group, and basically, you want to be part of the in group, right? So, how do these things play out in Instagram, on social media? Does that put pressure on you as an adolescent? How does that shape your view of yourself, or how would you think about your self-worth in these contexts?
It's like it depends on the person if he or she wants to be part of the popular group. Like most of us might want to be a part of the popular group, and through Instagram or through social media, people while they Photoshop the pictures, they tend to they tend to be called being called themselves cool, particularly cool, and then people talk about them. They feel special, and through by this they become a part of the popular people of the school.
I think being popular is just a term which is which is just used. It's not even like a. Basically, I'd like to say that most people, I mean, like anyone, you guys can only tell me, wouldn't you like to be noticed in a group of like 100 people? So I'm quite sure everyone would like to be called the so-called popular girl or popular boy in their school. That's why on social media they edit their photos to get more likes and comments and to be recognized and talked about.
Yeah, so sometimes self-worth is tied up to likes and comments and followers. So it does put a lot of pressure. How have you or how have your friends dealt with this kind of pressure? How do you still deal with it? Have you seen any unhealthy ways of coping with it, or stressing out somebody's mental health in your friend circle or group? Are there any stories you would like to share?
Okay, so I think as you grow older, you mature and your thoughts, like you develop more and your thoughts change. So I think social media is important, but it's not as important as it was before for you. Like in grade 6, 7, people used to go with every trend. Like how on the newspapers, magazines, every day there's some people. Okay, so now this is the new trend. So everyone starts following that. So in the initial in middle school, that trend is followed more so that you can be recognized and stuff, but by the end of it I think everyone finds their place, and I don't think they really care about it anymore. Everyone's like happy in their spaces.
So what you're saying is that it's already been done, that adolescents, 15, 16, 17 years old is not really the age that people go through that. They go through this much younger. But for someone who is still going through this, or maybe somebody who is new to social media or something like that, are there any ways that somebody going through peer pressure or that kind of pressure to be popular or to be a certain way, are there any ways that they could find relief from this? Do you have school counselors, etc.? What are the ways of support that you could access, or somebody like you could access? And how would your friend circle react or your peer group react if they knew that you were seeking help for your mental health? Would there be any kind of stigma, or how would people react? I would want to know.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to mention one thing. I'm not quite sure it's the answer to your question, but I think people who shift schools, they have problem fitting in. So then they really need to, like, they really want to, like, be a part of the so-called popular gang or everything. So they have a hard time fitting in. So probably for them in the later stage, social media might help them out, but otherwise generally everyone's really, like, settled well. And well, I think for solving the problem, you can, like in my school, the school counselors, I can seek them for help. And I think one thing which is very important is having trust with your family or your friends. So if you have that, like, close connection between them, they can relate to you, even if they don't have the problem and they don't quite get you, they will always try and help you out, and support you through everything you go. And I think the main factor in this is trust, because without trust you can't go through this tough phase.
So for the school counselors, usually there are counselors, but there are most of the children do not care what the counselors say. Usually, they just listen. They come out and they forget what the counselor ever said. So for the mental health thing, your parents might help you if they understand you, or if they understand what you're going through. They understand how this social media world works. And the best way to seek help is your trusted friends.
Apart from school counselors and friends and parents, I have known people who actually went to proper counselors. For example, they had anxiety and everything. They actually went to proper counselors to seek help. And as she said, as we grow older, when we're 16, 17, we get more mature, and we actually understand that these kind of things are normal. And because in today's world, mental health and all of these issues are a lot talked about, so all of this is considered normal. And I still think that if we were younger, if we were still in sixth and somebody was seeing a counselor or something like that, people would talk about it. People will not find it normal. But I think it's gradually becoming lesser and lesser important. And even if somebody does seek help, it doesn't actually matter a lot.
If someone in my group of friends, like, found out that one person was seeking help for their mental condition, I feel like everyone would be really accepting of it, because, like, in our age, mental health is again something that's really talked about, and all of us are really aware about how it goes about. But I feel that, like, the older generations, like, say someone like a teachers, or maybe even, like, some faraway relatives, they would actually be the ones who are more judgmental of it, and, like, who would think that the person who's seeking help for it is just crazy and doesn't really need it.
Okay, that was really interesting, and I think it really helped me understand a lot of things. But that is really shocking that children, I mean, somebody in class 6 or 7th would actually be a child and not an adolescent. A child going through this whole process, it's something to think about, right? And that was really interesting, and that was the end of our first podcast.